everyone, and I think it is time that people started to really connect the dots now and understand the bigger picture and put this Brexit stuff in the context it most truly belongs, and for us to understand that this is an attack. It's an attack against Britain. It's an attack against our United Kingdom. It's an attack against all the social progress that was made after World War II. It's an attack against our rights, our human rights, our workers' rights, everything, in fact, that global corporate financial interests stand against. We know that fundamentally these corporate capitalists stand against our workers' rights and our trade unions. And that is what is under threat here. And this is what I'm going to show. I'm just going to show you the links, the evidence here. I'm going to skim through them. I'll leave them below this video. Please take the time to check it out yourself. Okay, understand that it isn't just Britain here that's under attack, but the whole of the EU as a free trade union. That's what corporate interests do. They break down our unions. They drive people apart through division, xenophobia, lies, in order to impose what amounts to corporate communism. So they have freedom to rape the workforce and actually to use economic policies that kill people. You know, the kind of policies that allow, say for example in America, pharmaceutical firms to charge such extortionate prices for their medicines that diabetics, for example, are dying because they can't afford the insulin. This is the level of horror that gets inflicted against people. We're looking at losing our NHS, breakdown of our entire society, in order for us to, you know, end up under martial law, because how else can a government impose such a draconian thing as a hard Brexit? And I defy any of the average citizens who've been duped into supporting Brexit, even to this very day, because by now Parliament is in no doubt whatsoever that the majority of the people do not want Brexit. Now they know the truth. That is obvious. When you're getting over 1 million people marching through London twice in as many years, the government knows that the people of Britain, by large, by now, do not want Brexit. And certainly not anywhere near the kind of hard Brexit. But, you know, the fact is, when we look at it, no matter what deal any government could organise, new deal, it is not going to be better than the deal we've already got. And actually, if we are going to leave the EU, then certainly we shouldn't be doing it in a time of when we're already going through abject austerity. And they haven't even got one trade deal into place yet. And the one trade deal that they're hoping to get with America, Congress has already said that they're not going to accept it. So over the hard border, though, it seems that the EU have actually taken heed of the information that myself and other people among Remain groups had sent to them from May, explaining in no uncertain terms that the EU has an ethical and lawful duty to stand by the people of Ireland on both sides, Southern and Northern Ireland, because Ireland is a nation. Northern Ireland voted to stay in the EU, and therefore to impose any sort of border is actually a subversion of democracy and against the democratic interests of the Irish people, and also against the interests of Southern Irish people who didn't even they didn't take part in the referendum. So thank goodness that the EU have seen sense now and absolutely refuse to commit to any deal that includes a hard border across, or any sort of, border like that across Ireland. But nonetheless, we are now witnessing, losing Ireland, Scotland becoming independent because they voted to stay within the EU as well, and they in no way want the horror that is to come with Brexit, that we know is going to be a doubling, a tripling, a quadrupling of the levels of austerity that we're already existing under right now. And it has been terrible. I, as a British citizen, feel personally attacked as somebody who suffers with chronic complex PTSD and all the illnesses related with that of autoimmune. And also, I'm a full-time carer, so that the person I'm caring for has been subject to continual harassment from the DWP and the privatised services within it, like ATOS, with all these reassessments, and now universal credit, and leaving people without any income for months on end. You know, I personally, in 2013, went through over a year of having no income for 3 months at a time, and then getting income and then having it stopped again, and then having to go and fight to get it back again, as a carer and as a person myself who is struggling with an illness, you know. And so, and then witnessing the impact on people around me, friends and family. Some of them have lost their jobs and have had to take on 0-hour contracts, and then suddenly have been told, oh, we don't need you for the next 2 weeks, you know, and have had to give food to people. And then also people who have been working for, you know, the benefit system, and suddenly, you know, people have left through early retirement, or they haven't been replacing people that have left the jobs, or they've been giving people the redundancies options, and then when they've gone, not employing anybody else. So, you know, one of my friends, he's now doing the work of 3 people. He's doing regularly 2 or 3 hours extra, unpaid overtime every day, simply because he knows the people that he's serving are really sick and disabled, and they need this income. And if he doesn't do it, there's nobody else to do it, and they will not get their income. So out of his own sense of conscience, he's taking extra hours out of his time, and that's happening to NHS staff. It's happening to all the staff in these privatised services, and it is taking its toll, and people are getting ill. My illness has increased. I've been so ill since all of this started, and now Brexit as well. I've just been 24/7 trying to share information, contacting the EU, you know, writing stuff like this. I mean, how long do you think it takes to get to do all the research and put it all together and put it in context and actually send it out? And I'm a nobody. I've got no letters after my name. I'm having to literally shout and scream at the top of my voice, you know, to get people to listen to what is actually going on, and to get people to understand the severity and the seriousness of it, because we are talking literally an axe hanging over our heads, ready to cut us all back and dump us in the 1750s. Back, you know, what we're facing now is equivalent to the Enclosure Acts of the 1750s onwards, that saw over a million people dead in Britain through starvation, and the draconian laws that criminalised what was previously lawful activity, like, you know, hunting a rabbit or gathering food from the forests and what have you, fishing. You know, suddenly there was the anti-poaching laws they brought in, and they're doing similar draconian things here, aren't they? You know, people having the benefits stopped all of a sudden because they were 5 minutes late to sign on, or they didn't turn up for an appointment. And many of the times when you examine these people's cases, you know, especially when it comes to appointments, they've sent the letters to the wrong address. They've sent the letters to the wrong address in even the wrong name. But by the time the person sorted all that out, 3 months have passed and they've had no money. This is the kind of stuff that has been going on. And in that context of people struggling in that level of austerity, suddenly they're being asked to vote for Brexit and being told a pack of lies. And the BBC is there, and the media, to push this forward as a propaganda agent of actually foreign interests, because this government is serving foreign interests. They are agents. He has not been elected. None of them have been elected into office, except by members of their own party. In my previous video, I'll leave you the link here. I'll connect all the dots, the links showing how these people have been operating since Thatcher. Crime leading to the next crime, to the next crime, to the next crime. And each crime, all connected to each other, they get more powerful, wealthier, and more powerful to commit the next great big crime. And finally, we're at Brexit, where they finally use Brexit to axe all the social advances that were made after World War II. So basically just scrub World War II out. It never happened. We never had any social advances out of it. Social progression, okay, that wasn't progression actually. According to them, it was a social experiment. No, it wasn't. It was hard-won rights that we fought for, and we won them. And it's part of our human progression, just as the way our technology is part of our progression. And the technology we have today is directly, partly related to that social progression that was made after World War II. But they want to get rid of the social progression, but keep all the technology. And then use that technology to implement what amounts to corporate communism on the people. Except not controlled by the state, but by a global entity of power that calls itself the New World Order. That he is colluding with foreign powers, you know, far-right extremists in the form of Netanyahu, in the form of Trump, who fundamentally oppose human rights, who fundamentally want to see the whole of the EU destroyed. They would love to see it break apart, because the EU as a free trade union upholding workers' rights and environmental protection laws, okay, yes, it does threaten the profits of the corporations who want to behave like rapists, okay. And yes, it has insisted that the corporations pay their taxes, because otherwise every nation in Europe is going to end up like Greece. You can't just keep taking and giving nothing back and investing nothing back into the system. As ordinarily, independent nations with their own businesses, services, whatever, people earning wages, decent wages, the money circulates. But it isn't circulating, it's just being sucked out like with a huge vacuum cleaner straight into offshore tax havens. This cannot continue. They will drive us all to destitution one way or another. So they have vested interest, these global foreign powers have vested interest in using Britain, colluding with the far-right extremists of Britain to remove Britain from the EU, attack all the advances made here, and from here then start attacking the EU. Because that's what corporate interests do. They attack and break down our free trade unions. That is exactly what they're about, and that is what is going on here. And it is important that the people of Europe understand this as well, and that the people of Britain understand it, regardless of what you think about, you know, whether you voted Brexit or you voted to stay. At the end of the day, we have to accept that this is not in our best interest. That it is purely for the interest of these very powerful, wealthy people who do not want to pay the taxes, who are operating fraudulent businesses that will come under EU scrutiny. They will be exposed for the criminals that they are, and they are running scared, and that is why they are using all these criminal methods now, open, blatant criminal methods. It's chilling. From the Mail, the Times to the BBC and ITN, everyone is peddling Downing Street's lies and smears, they're turning their readers into dupes. You know, here it's about, they were saying that people are being investigated for government MPs are being investigated for their involvement, you know, collusion with foreign powers to get the Ben Act and the Letwin Agreement. And to such a degree, this story has taken off to such a degree that even now, you know, very recently, Michael Gove's come out, you know, and the members of the Tory party saying that they should be jailed. And this is what I mean. They start with a lie that turns out to be a total fake news story. I'll leave you the links. Please read them through. Check them, because this is our children's future. We are literally the last living line of defence now for the next generation. Because I tell you, how long did it take us to get those rights? Do you think that once they're gone, how difficult is it ever going to be able to get them back when we don't even have a right to protest? And we're living under martial law. This is war. Understand this, people. This is a war against us. It is a war against our free trade union. And yes, I'm not saying that there aren't parts of people within the EU, ministers and what have you, who, you know, aren't corrupted in some way, can't be bought with a wad of cash or, you know, persuaded because they've got secret criminal activities they want to keep quiet. But by and large, the majority of the EU, they've got a backbone, they've got a moral backbone. Our rights cannot be bought nor sold. So I have asked in my previous video that it is time that the security services, Labour, Parliament itself, because we're not talking about an individual political party. It's not just Labour. We've got the decent people among Tory MPs, people like Dominic Grieve, who've actually separated themselves from this Brexit and the Tory party to stand with the opposition, to stand up for the nation's rights, you know. And I think that with the amount of crimes that have been happening and that various ministers have been involved in since Thatcher, really, you know, there needs to be an amnesty for certain ministers that have been caught up in that and actually have had no way really to address it as individuals without, you know, possibly ending up dead like Dr. David Kelly. So we need to understand the kind of pressures that have been brought to bear on people like Mr. Grieve and offer those people an amnesty. Because there's going to be no change without forgiveness and without amnesty for people who have been operating under duress. So this is the Security Act, and I've shared it previously. The function of the service shall be the protection of national security from espionage, terrorism and sabotage, from the activities of agents of foreign powers, and from actions intended to overthrow or undermine parliamentary democracy by political, industrial or violent means. Well, the City of London, you know, it is an industry. They call it the banking industry. The City of London, the state within a state. That's what this is about. Sovereignty, for the right for them to keep sovereignty. The state that to this day celebrates its little red dagger that does represent how they abuse their powers over the people to deny the people the benefits even of the Magna Carta. I'll leave you the link to the Little Red Dagger. Watch that film. It is time people, British people, got educated to what is really been going on and the truth about our history. Because if you don't understand your past, you're never going to be able to sort out the present and establish a future worth living. Because these people do not see us as human beings. We are stock. So,
lots of people want another referendum. I think around about 1 million people were marching forward over the weekend, and I think it's a good idea. I think we should do it. I think it's going to be beneficial. However, there will be no point having another referendum if we do not learn the lessons from the first one. I'm not talking some weak-ass, watered-down electoral commission bullshit. I'm talking about a new law, a new act of statute criminalising the conduct of politicians who knowingly and repeatedly lie to the public about matters of great public importance. If we do not have a law making it clear that politicians cannot get away with lying to the public, then all of these people will come back and they will lie again. It's very likely there will be another big red bus with another bullshit figure on it. There will be other people making other things up. Politicians from both sides will act incredibly questionably, and the result will not be a cool, calm, happy, contented country brought together again through the forces of democracy that everybody wants. That won't happen. The result will be this: a country even more divided through pain and hatred and lack of understanding and huge confusion, because when politicians lie, that's what happens. When both sides say completely the opposite thing and keep tricking everybody and lying to everybody, it creates huge division and huge damage. My job, and the lawyers who are working pro bono with me to help me with this, is to create a bill and persuade Parliament to turn it into an act of statute and to get it through the Commons and the Lords. We have to make this happen. Otherwise, we are simply going to repeat the same mistakes we did last time. I need everybody's help with me to do this, okay? This is much easier for people to help with because it's far less risky. I'm not doing a criminal prosecution case, it seems, anymore, unfortunately. This is a new law, a new act of statute. Get on board, spread the word, thank you.
So that's Marcus Ball, hats off to him, absolutely top guy. Listen to this. This is what we're dealing with, people. This is what we're dealing with. This is Dominic Raab, okay?
But unless you've got a strong economy, creating the revenue, it's just a childish wish list. The typical user of food bank is not someone that's languishing in poverty, it's someone who has a cash flow problem episodically. Yeah, it's true. But my name's Dominic Raab. I'm the author of The Assault on Liberty, and I'm a Tory. I don't support the Human Rights Act, and I don't believe in economic and social rights. It is still too difficult to hire and fire in this country, and that is a major obstacle to growth.
I'm not advocating people being taken off their farms and put into camps, but there was a war going on.
Thousands of people died.
The South African concentration camps had exactly the same mortality rate as existed in Glasgow at the time. So they're not a good thing, but where else were people going to live?
Did you just justify the use of concentration camps?
No.
He did. Johnson's Brexit is more dangerous than Theresa May's. Boris Johnson's Brexit dream is to shred workers' rights and social protections. These are the amount of people came out. Over 1 million people. Twice marching through central London. God bless them all, because they understand Britain is a nation under siege right now. Chancellor declines MP's request for Brexit modelling. The Treasury Select Committee interim chair has accused the government of expecting MPs to vote blindly on the new Brexit deal. He's refused to release economic analysis evaluating how the government's proposed new Brexit deal will impact UK finances. You see, this is an attack against our economy, and that's why it is beholden on Parliament. Security services are there to defend and protect Parliament and our economy. The government is an agent of a foreign power, defending and protecting its financial interests of the state within the state of Britain, that is London City, that square mile. It's acting to protect their financial interests against the interest. They're betting against the pound. They stand to win, to gain huge financial gains on our losses. This is an attack. Now, a lot of these tax havens are Crown territories. So is this a situation of the Crown and the government turning against Parliament and the people? Well, the security services from World War II, you are there to protect Parliament and the people and the very fabric of our nation. You are not there to serve the government or the Crown, actually. And the Crown, then, its agents in the form of the government, who in turn are agents to criminal foreign powers, Donald Trump being investigated for criminal activities, Netanyahu being investigated in his own country for criminal activities, all of them part of this far-right extremism that has actually killed people and even murdered a British MP on the strength of what turns out to be an absolute pack of lies. NHS. I've had to sign this. The government's own research shows that leaving the EU without a deal could disrupt the supply of life-saving medicines and cripple our NHS. Patients will be the biggest losers in the chaos of a no-deal Brexit. And yet, the Brexit that Boris Johnson's about to deliver, or hopes to deliver, is the nearest thing to a no-deal Brexit. Really, to all intents and purposes, it might as well be a no-deal Brexit. Amazon workers suffers broken bones amid appalling conditions at UK workhouses. Already Walmart people are being told, people working in Walmart are being told they've got to sign new contracts or face the sack. Basically contracts that are 0-hour contracts and give them no job security. That was one of the biggest things that the social progression gained after World War II, was guaranteeing people job security. Jacob Rees-Mogg said it could take 50 years to reap the benefits of Brexit. The average British citizen are going to be going through even worse austerity, a quadrupling of the austerity we've already been going through for the last almost 10 years now. But he's going to be reaping the rewards straight away. Brexiteer MPs seek law to jail British citizens who undermine British negotiations abroad. I've covered this in a previous video last night because it is so serious. Because this move now, this isn't fake news, this is real. They are actually pushing for these laws. This is actually on the strength of the kind of fake news that has been peddled about, saying that, you know, people like Dominic Grieve and Letwin have been colluding with foreign powers to undermine Brexit. One of the greatest marches in British history. People are demanding a second referendum, which they deserve and is their right after they were lied to. So I'm going to have to try and pause this and see if it works without disturbing the video. There you go. Benefit sanctions lead claimants to suicide, crime and destitution, warns damning report. This is from 2016, so they know the impacts. How bad is it going to be with even worse austerity? Benefit sanctions are devastating for claimants and can lead to destitution, crime, suicide and throw up barriers to employment. A wide-ranging report probing the effects of removing payments from Salford's residents has claimed. And then, you know, I'm going to have to get this up. Watchdog to investigate suicide monitoring of benefit claimants after ministers refuse to publish data. National Audit Office to demand information from DWP on serious and important issue after ministers refuse to provide figures on how many people in the welfare system have taken their own lives. And we know that this is directly through benefit cuts and sanctions. You know, this is an attack. This is an attack. As I say, people like me, the person I care for, we have suffered directly through this. I've lost income. I've had a worsening of my illness. My health has deteriorated terribly in the last 9 years, directly through the stresses that I've had to go through and the levels of depression. And anybody, if you get online and look at my Twitter feed, you'll see I'm up till the early hours of the morning. I can't sleep. I just cannot sleep because I am so concerned. Now, here we are with Jacob Rees-Mogg. Britain is a nation where parents are having children permanently removed from their homes, the children dragged screaming from their homes and actually placed at greater risk in care on grounds that a future emotional risk has been identified in the family home. Either the parent has a learning difficulty, or the parent was in care themselves, or the family's going through the domestic acrimony. That even though they have rights, according to the law, they have rights to family assistance, family support in times of need. No, they're not getting family support. They're having the children removed by privatised social services who make profits. They get thousands of pounds from the public purse for every child they snatch. They're dragging children screaming because parents, they said the child's at a future emotional risk with that parent, right? Well, here we have Jacob Rees-Mogg here playing the victim. He chose to leave Parliament on foot on a day that he took his son, a Saturday, he took his son to Parliament. He chose to leave Parliament on foot, be escorted by a load of police to go past a 1 million strong crowd of people righteously protesting at what's being threatened to us with his Brexit, the Brexit he wants, okay? And he subjected his son to the trauma of being jeered at and people shouting at his father, knowing, and he didn't have to do that. It turns out cars were able to leave Parliament. This was a propaganda stunt. Rees-Mogg and Gove selected to turn the story of a huge anti-Brexit march into a story about harassing Leave politicians. Please investigate. So he needs why isn't he? Is he going to be investigated now by Child Protection that he actually put his child at risk? You know, took him out to walk outside to confront, to face the confrontation of a 1 million strong crowd, and they knew exactly what was going on outside Parliament. They knew how many people were there. He knew when he took his child into Parliament on Saturday that London was going to have a huge march, because the organiser had already said days before the event that the coaches far surpassed the coaches of the last demo, and that was over 1 million strong. So we knew in advance it was going to be a huge demonstration, and yet knowingly he decides to take his child into Parliament on that day, on a Saturday. I mean, can he seriously claim that he couldn't afford childcare? And yet he has abused his status as a parent and put his own child at risk of trauma as a publicity stunt, a political stunt. This is how far these people will go, even abuse their own children to get their agendas, to turn the narrative so he can be the victim. Oh, look, they're attacking me when I'm walking with my child. Like, how could they do that? What evil people. No, why did you do that? I would say you're not just a future emotional risk to your children, Jacob Rees-Mogg. You are an actual emotional risk, because you knowingly subjected your child to that. But as usual in Britain, it is one law for us and one law for people like him who make the kind of laws where people are losing their children permanently, tearing families apart. This is Jo Bird. She's a Labour activist. She's a Jew. She speaks out against Zionist atrocity. Okay? absolutely brilliant woman. Hardly any of the media is covering her. Instead, you know, the media's all there. Oh, Labour's anti-Semitic. It's not anti-Semitic to criticise Zionist crimes, people who committing crimes, calling them on the strength of their Zionist ideology, which is actually amounts to nothing more than far-right extremism. This is the work that I've done. Here we go, martial law. Measures include travel bans, curfews and the deployment of armed forces on the streets of Britain, while ministers would be able to amend any act of parliament. That includes the Ben Act. Have powers to enter our homes and confiscate property. Understand this. Leave campaign. Broke election law but won't be prosecuted, police say. Why? They're corrupt, they're criminals. Why won't they be prosecuted? Fresh evidence relating to Cambridge Analytica and Brexit campaign published by DCMS Committee. The government's subcommittee on disinformation has published fresh evidence from a key figure within the data firm Cambridge Analytica, drawing further attention to its connections to the Leave EU campaign and political party UKIP. And the Leave EU campaign was established by Tories. It was funded even with illegal funding. And we're talking about a criminal attack against the electorate through their Facebooks and employment of an army of cyberbots, online cyberbots. And people have ended up dead and attacked. Brexiteers say there should be riots over Brexit in the style of Gilets Jaunes. Well, do you know what? The people of France are actually protesting against exactly the same of corporate powers that are oppressing them as what Brexit is actually acting on behalf of. Another ad block. Netanyahu to meet with Boris Johnson on surprise trip to London. This was the day after Johnson had prorogued Parliament. A foreign power, a man being investigated for criminal activity, was there to give his support as a foreign power, and they have the audacity to start accusing British MPs, who are also EU members, of sabotage, of colluding with the enemy. Europe isn't our enemy, he's our enemy. Government stockpiling body bags, says doctor who contributed to Operation Yellowhammer. Stockpiling body bags. He's really seriously concerned. You can see the fear in the man's eyes. He knows what they've got planned. A medic who contributed to Yellowhammer report has made the alarming claim that the government is stockpiling body bags in case of an increased mortality rate after no deal Brexit. So with the threatening us even with death, and we've already had 130,000 dead, how many more before this is over? No duty to secure food supplies in a no-deal Brexit or any other crisis. Tax havens. It's all here. I've shared it in a previous video. Look. Many of the offshore tax havens are British Crown territories and are promoted and defended by the UK government. But the government isn't Parliament, and the security services, you are there to defend and protect Parliament and our economy and the British nation as a united kingdom. And it is time the Labour MPs, Parliament, Labour, the Tory MPs that have defected, and all of the MPs that fundamentally stand against the damages that Brexit is threatening to inflict and has already inflicted. That is who you serve. So, you know, you people at the security services cannot say, oh yes, but you know, we can't be seen to be supporting any particular political party, because Parliament is a collection of political parties, and Parliament has repeatedly voted against this government, and this government has behaved criminally repeatedly to the extent that Parliament has had to take them to the Supreme Court, and they have won their case. The most shocking thing about today's Brexit debate, the lack of information. Sajid Javid's refusal to provide an analysis of Johnson's deal should be a red flag to us all. This is a man who formerly worked in a Singapore, a tax haven. But he's a tax haven banker. And next minute, he's Chancellor of the Exchequer. With connections to Singapore, illegal finances, a lot of it, money laundering operations. And he fully intends to set Britain up as a tax haven. Singapore on the Thames. Check the links. I will leave it under the links. It's actually in here, in this document. Singapore on the Thames. It is actually in here. We need, there it is. Singapore on the Thames, Mr. Javid. How many more times do I have to share it? Johnson threatens to scrap Brexit bill and seek election before Christmas. Can we trust any election held under this government, this criminal government? No, we can't. We're going to need the EU to send in. We're going to need external monitors to make sure that our election's secure. We need these people arresting immediately. And we need an interim government and for the EU to come in and monitor elections to make sure they're secure and fair. And to have a secure, fair referendum and to make sure that the people are fully aware of what they're voting for and what they're voting against. Because what is going on is really, really serious. It is scary. People are scared. And that is why have I been at this 24/7 trying to address it in every spare moment that I've got. And even through illness. I've been seriously ill with my autoimmune problems. And seriously depressed. Seriously depressed. You know, they were claiming, they lied, saying Yellowhammer was an old document. When we know it wasn't. And then they're using, like I say, their fake news then to justify talking about new laws to prosecute. Actually jail British MPs. No. We need to stop this now. Please wake up, people. As I said in my previous video, they've shown the claws. Are we going to wait now to see the teeth? No. This monster has to go. Britain, stand up. Be strong. Okay? Take courage. Because we will defeat this. They shall not defeat us. The spirit of my grandfather lives in me. The spirit of the people of World War II lives in us all. Their light, their life light shining through us. And we shall never forget them. And we shall never forget their huge sacrifice. And we shall never let go of the social progressions that they won and fought for. That many of those people never had chance to know and enjoy the rights that they bequeathed to the next generation, and that is our treasure, and the deeds to those rights were written in our blood, in our ancestors' blood, and that blood is not there for vampires to guzzle. Okay, they are literally drunk on their powers at the moment, and it does need to end. And if we in this country have been paying for a security service, okay, it is about time that you earned your keep, okay, and did your job and recognise. And it is time for British MPs forget all this, shenanigans, trying to reason with the totally unreasonable, the criminals. They want their Brexit. They want to protect their city of London, and the sovereignty for them to carry on being the evil monsters that they always were, and they still are to this very single day. It is time that you stood up for our rights now, and that you stood by Parliament. That's who you're there to serve. Not the Crown, not the government, but Parliament, and protect our economy. Because the economy is what everybody relies on. And as I've just shown you all the evidence there, once you start messing about with the economy, people die. And 130,000 people in Britain are already dead directly through austerity. So like I say, take courage, people, take strength, rise up, be strong. They shall never defeat us.